Hello, I'm Arian, your personal tutor for today, and I'm a little sick today, so if you see my voice is just a little bit cracking here or there, don't mind it. I'm still here to teach you guys. Okay, so so let's just start by me telling you about Anaconda. So, if Anaconda is a data science platform, and what it could help us by using a lot of tools that we could need maybe in the future, which we will. So if you want to get started, you just have to go to products in digital edition. You go all the way down, all the way. Keep on going. And these are Anaconda installers. Now, if you're in Linux or Mac OS system or in a Windows system, you should pick up Python 3. Python 3. Python 3.7, Python 3.8, it actually does not matter. What actually matters is that you do not install Python 2.7. So if you're in Windows, do not install the 32-bit graphical installer. Download the 64-bit, 64-bit, and 64-bit for Mac OS and Linux. And what this would do is help you more. So if I go to Anaconda, which I already have installed, you just have to install it with your basic steps. You will see a window that would come here. And these are all tools that you could use for data science or other tools which you could use for many other things. There's Jupyter Lab and Jupyter Notebook. We used Jupyter Notebook before. Let's just see it. So I go to new Python 3. It's basic stuff. Just pause the video and slow it down so you guys could see. I could say print hello world, and I can run this, and I could see the word hello world there. Now the thing about Jupyter Notebook is that it has a cell-based structure, and it uses something called IPython, which is an implementation of the normal Python. Now IPython is a little bit more different because it's more readable and it's easier to understand. If you've seen what I said, I could say a is equal to hello.print. It's the most basic thing you could say, and you could say print a. So if I run this, so then it does this. And okay, so this is gonna say none. So what actually happens is that I don't have to do this. I could just say help.python help print, and it's gonna say the same thing. So IPython is basically if I say a is equal to 2 and a, it's gonna say 2. Why? Because in this cell, it's the output cell is gonna be 2 because IPython is different, and when it recognizes a character, its main default function is the standard print function. So when you go to Anaconda, just Anaconda, you're gonna see this. Now, in here there's Spider, which is a really good Python development environment, but actually I like to use PyCharm. Now you would have to download PyCharm by yourself by just searching it up and downloading the latest version, and I have that right here. Now this, it's very different, such as it could do more stuff for you and has more than enough things for you to do. So I could go to terminal, or I could go to Python console, and I could write basically anything here. I could say a is equal to 1. A. It's going to say 1. So it's basically like that. Okay. So let's just get started with today's lesson. And today's lesson is going to be the def function, which means it's a function that is where you define a method for yourself. Functions like print input int, casting, input, output, normal functions. These are all functions that are pre-installed into Python. But if you want to actually enhance your code, you could write def. Okay, let's start this with the most basic thing. Def. Def is basically, I'm going to define a method for you, and the Python console says okay. And I'm going to write any identifier that I want. I could say something such as multiply by 2, and I could write parentheses, and I could say 8 times 2. Right. Now the fantastic thing about this is that it doesn't recognize 8, whereas in the normal implementation of IPython and other consoles, it's very different. So when I say def multiplied by 2, what I actually mean is that I need to assign a variable a is equal to 2, and then I could just shorten this like this, and I could write enter, and then I could write multiply by 2 So I actually have to get the right name, which I just didn't. Now I could say, oh no. So the thing about this is whenever you create your new file, you have to actually run it. So if I run it, it's going to say 2. Why? Because I actually have to pass an argument in there, and the argument's going to be 8. And this is actually going to be set to a parameter, which is something that I could allow to fix. And when you're going to see this to be run, it's going to print 2 again. So I present. So it's going to say 4. Because why? Because I stored memory in 8 times 2 and I just printed it. Now these functions could actually really help us, and they could incorporate into our data, and we could use them for multi-purpose languages. So let's just say that I have something such as, I just wrote a default program here. You guys don't need to like see it all the way. It's a normal program which I will be teaching you about the next class. And let me just run it. It's in one of these files. It's in here. Okay, I'm gonna have to actually run it because the console actually focuses only on one file. Okay, so I'm gonna say how many questions do I want? 2. And now it uses many functions to identify what I'm trying to do. So it's 20 times 2, 40. It's gonna say, yeah, okay, you got 1 point now. And what's 19 times 3? Let me just pull out my calculator and actually multiply them. That's 247. 247. It's gonna say, yeah, you got it. You got 0.0. I'm currently focusing on that, not right now, but I'm focusing on the points calculation and everything. For that, I actually don't have to use a def function, but it could actually promote all of my code to be shorter and readable. So I'll tell you this about in next class, but I could just create it in here again. I just have to use something called a library, which we talked about in our first tutorial. So I'm going to import something called random as ran. And when I want to inherit these capabilities from this library, I just have to get an identifier and store that function. So I'm going to say ran, and then I'm going to say something such as 1, 2, 2. Now look what it does. Print A. Now it's gonna print A. Okay, let me just wrong one. Okay, I have to run it, and it's gonna say 1. So I could play it again. It's gonna say 1. It's gonna say 2. It's gonna say 2. It's gonna say 1. It's gonna say 2. No, this what it does is it just sets our first parameter, something called the first parameter, and our second parameter. And what happens here is necessarily we're telling our machine that we're gonna send two arguments. Arguments is the code that we're trying to send. Is the object that we're trying to send to the function. And when the function gets that, it calls them parameters, and it manipulates those parameters for your advantage. So if I say ran 1 to 2 and I print A, it's gonna focus like this. So I could do anything. I could say def function, and I could say something such as function could be such as A is ran 1 to 10 and B is equal to ran 1 to 10, and then C is equal to A plus B, and then I could just print C, and I could shorten this to make my code more readable, and I could just write a comment here, which I can't actually do that. I just have to write something such as turn this. Trying to get a random number. See, so when I do this function, it's actually and it's actually function, I know. And it's going to say 7, 3, 12, 10, 10, 10, 14, 7. Now this is amazing and everything, but I need to still specify for you guys what it means when I use this function. But before I tell you about that, it's one important thing that you have to know about is that in a function, the real thing is that I'm sending no arguments set as parameters, meaning by I'm sending nothing basically for it to get accepted. So I could say A is so in a function. These are something called local variables, which means in this function, when it's going to be stored and when it's going to be run, it's going to display the information, but after that, it's not going to be remembered. It's not going to be stored in memory. So we do anything such as I could store these something such as global. Global means that they can actually be stored for my entire script. So when I do this, I could do this, and I could say it does the same thing, to be honest. Okay, so let's just focus on this. So these are local, and if I declare a variable inside here, then this is declared as local. Sorry, these are global, these are not, these are local. And in this, I could make a nested function. I could say def print. Print is a function. So I could just say display. And you're gonna see this gray code and everything, but it's okay. You don't need to worry about that. So the same thing happens. But what happened? I nested them. Now, if I know this is gonna sound even worse, if I declare a variable here, then it's gonna be something called non-local. And I got these insane numbers. Okay, so this is the meaning of the def function, and it allows us to create functions of our own to incorporate into our data for better purposes and for a shorter amount of time. We could do much more things with them, which I'm going to show you in next class. Thank you for